Hi, and welcome to Section 6 of the Introduction to the Economy of Saudi Arabia and the Other GCC Countries. This section is titled Construction and Transport Infrastructure. My name is Eric William Wellstrand. If you're joining us for the first time, please see Section 0 for the purpose, outline, and disclaimer of this presentation. In this presentation, I will focus mostly on housing and transport infrastructure. There are, of course, other types of construction, for instance, the production of, or construction of power plants. That was covered in the previous section, and these two are the most important. When it comes to housing, I assume most of you have heard of the housing boom and bubble in Dubai. A few years ago, everything seemed to be happening in Dubai. They built the world's tallest tower. They had an enormous percentage of, the high cranes in the world. It was where everybody went for construction. But this is far from the whole story on the GCC. Yes, Dubai was sort of a bubble, and it burst during the financial crisis. The market has sort of stabilized there, but it's still not back to where it was by far. But when it comes to going forward, it seems to be that the real big growth markets are going to be Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Now, Saudi Arabia is different from Dubai. Housing construction in Saudi Arabia is not a bubble. Saudi Arabia actually has quite a big problem when it comes to housing. There's a serious lack of housing. This is a major social security issue also for the social stability, issue for the government. During the Arab Spring, the Saudi government introduced a stimulus package. One of the core elements of that stimulus package was the construction of 500,000 units of housing in the next 5 years. That's a lot, out of a population of 22 million. But the fact is, nobody knows exactly how high the need actually is, but I've seen serious estimates saying somewhere around 1.6 million units in the next 5 years. So this is not the same as in Dubai, where everybody was speculating in property, had a lot of money flowing into it. This is housing being built for people who actually need houses. Of course, there are some extravagant projects. For instance, they're going to build the Kingdom Tower in Jeddah, which is supposed to be 1,000 meters tall. That means it will be taller than the Burj Al Khalifa. It will be the world's tallest building. They're planning on breaking ground there in January. Qatar is also booming when it comes to construction. I was there recently and I was amazed. Qatar is potentially a little bit more of a bubble situation. It is sort of similar to Dubai. The difference is, of course, that Qatar is rich. It has a lot of oil, a lot of gas. Dubai doesn't. Dubai eventually had to be bailed out by its richer Emirate brother, Abu Dhabi. Of course, a lot of the growth in Qatar is also due to the World Cup, which has been awarded for 2022, which is a debated issue, but I'm not going to talk about that here. I'll quote the COO of Al Jabar Group, which said that Qatar's planned $88 billion US dollars infrastructure spending is beginning to translate to contract wins on the ground as the Gulf state prepares to host the 2022 World Cup. So I was amazed when I was in Qatar, and I have quite recently lived in Shanghai and Hong Kong, so I'm used to seeing places where there's a lot of construction going on, but Qatar was special, especially considering the small population of Qatar. What happens there, if it turns out to be a new Dubai or not, will be interesting to see. Like I said, even Dubai, when I was there, I've been there also recently, it has stabilized. Of course, a lot of people still struggling with the aftermath of the property bust, but it's not as bad as it was a few years ago, and it seems to be stabilizing. Talking about construction in Saudi Arabia, I will give you a breakdown of how that works. Now, from the National Commercial Bank Construction Contract Index showed that a total of 95 billion SAR contracts were awarded during the third quarter of 2011. This is quite recent. Awarded contracts so far for this year have now reached $180 billion, the index has shown. The mixed-use real estate sector accounts for roughly 26% of the third quarter value awarded contracts, while transportation and industrial sector accounts for 16 and 15% respectively. So you see, housing is a big chunk of it. Of course, these numbers are not representative for the long term. I'm talking about the third quarter 2011 because that's recently where I am right now. But a lot of that is from that stimulus package. If you see, it was 100 billion for the third quarter and only 180 for the whole year together. Because now we're seeing all these contracts coming online, which were planned during the stimulus money. And of course, that package was tilted towards construction. So housing is more than normal, but housing has always been an important part of the construction sector in Saudi Arabia and will be so in the future. I'm going to continue talking about something I personally find more interesting, which is the transport infrastructure. There is a big boom in the GCC countries when it comes to this. Some areas they're working together, other areas they are competing about becoming the regional hub. The four areas I'll talk about is railroads, roads, ports, and airports.